Now for our roundtable with our News Channel 5 political analyst, Mary Anna Mancuso and Brian Crowley. First, if I may ask, you heard Mark Perry talking about the constant tug of war on the environmental, water quality, water quantity issues, and of course, water quality at the very heart of our community, literally. It's a tug of war that never seems to end, Brian.
Yeah, people forget, and I don't remember the exact year, but the great plan to save the Everglades was passed during the Clinton administration. So this ongoing battle has been going on for decades, and it never seems to make enough headway to get the job done. So there's some hope that this time things have improved, but we'll see.
Mariana?
I would have to echo Brian's sentiments. I think the one thing that we do have going for us when it comes to the environment in Florida is having Governor Ron DeSantis in the governor's mansion. He's been a huge proponent of the environment, and I've often referred to him since he took office as possibly Florida's Teddy Roosevelt. So I look forward to seeing how this plays out.
His first year, he did a lot of work environmentally wise, and that's continued to be a push. It's a good point. Speaking of the governor, there continues to be this tug of war on COVID restrictions. What he wants versus what localities want. Here was one headline. South Florida leaders say Governor Ron DeSantis inadvertently sending wrong message to ignore coronavirus restrictions. He had recently remitted all local coronavirus-related fines. And it's a debate that keeps going on, Brian, and given concerns that there's variants out there and that we possibly could see an upsurge, square that debate that's going on, because it seems to be never ending right now.
Well, I mean, I've given the governor a B in handling the COVID and a C- in messaging. And unfortunately, often messaging is a large part of the battle in getting public understanding. But, there was an interesting, lengthy Politico magazine profile of the governor. And, he cheerfully points out over and over again that we're doing as well or better than the states that were locked down. He just doesn't see the evidence that we need to do anything more than open up. And the fact of the matter is the numbers tend to support his position. We're not doing worse than New York or California or some of the other states. In fact, we're doing better. The rollout of the vaccines have been a little shaky, but the vaccines are rolling out. So I think overall he may be doing better than his PR suggests.
Mariana, same question. Wall Street Journal recently gave Governor DeSantis a big shout out. We have this local versus state tug of war. He did what some described as a bit of a victory lap this week, much to the very points Brian brought up. And all of this, you can almost see the political wheel spinning for him, as they would anybody, pointing to the messaging he'll take into 2022. Nikki Fried, the only state-elected Democrat, took him on saying, talking about no mask mandates. That's been a bone of contention. Shouldn't be doing that. You need to be pushing social distancing, mask mandates. He doesn't believe in mask mandates. It's an interesting dynamic, and it's going to help define the race next year.
He's volleyed a lot of the responsibility and whether or not to basically have mask mandates to the counties and local government officials. But when it comes to this victory lap, I think it's important that we call this for what it is. It's a test run of a 2024 presidential campaign. And Ron DeSantis is not shying away from that. It's very clear that this is what he's doing. And when I think about this so-called victory lap, I've never in my life seen a political person, anybody, whether elected official, campaign, whatever have you, be able to take a victory lap when 32,000 Floridians are dead. So I think that's a kind of a bold move on his part.
Brian?
Yeah, I agree. You shouldn't be taking victory laps as such. This should be.
And I should stress, Brian, that others described it as that. He didn't, so in fairness. But go ahead with your point.
Sure. Look, I mean, he's not his own best communicator in a lot of ways, but I do think that overall the policies he's enacted have worked. I would not have thought that a few months ago, but they appear to have worked. Time will tell whether or not it gets worse or gets better. I find it odd that any Republican would want to take away power from local governments. I'll note as an aside that the Florida legislature has repeatedly over the last few years looked at ways to take power away from local governments, sort of a new thing Republicans are doing. I think part of the reason is that DeSantis has been frustrated with things that he thinks are shutting down the economy. So if you're a city or a county like Palm Beach County that was closing things down, requiring masks and doing all that, he was seeing that as hurting the economy and not necessarily advancing the cause of better health. So, time will tell.
Mary Anna, Bright Future scholarships, big debate in Tallahassee this week about tying them to what is deemed a job-worthy major, and there's an outcry from students. Who is Tallahassee to decide the size and scope of Bright Future scholarships based on what's deemed majors where you can go out and get a job? It was quite a debate that's going on, Republican-led legislature pushing that. Your thoughts on that?
Again, to Brian's point, I'm shocked when I see Republican-led legislature trying to advocate for bigger government, which that's what this is. And honestly, this is a huge disservice to so many Florida students who rely on Bright Futures. I know my husband was a recipient of Bright Futures and he went to University of Florida as a result. And I think about the students that this is going to impact directly right now that are getting ready to graduate. And really, my question to the Republican legislature with this bill is, haven't the students suffered enough already?
Brian?
Yeah, I'm a little flabbergasted by the whole thing, which is why I'm hesitant a little bit on this. I don't understand it. I don't know why they're doing it. Dennis Baxley, who is the sponsor of this legislation in the state Senate, he's hardcore on a whole lot of issues. And, they see the student who wants to major in philosophy as a waste of money. Of course, it's only a handful of students who major in such things these days. They want people to graduate and immediately be able to find a job. Well, I know some of the courses that I took when I were in college, 5 or 6 years later, those things didn't even exist anymore. I was using, I was doing some computer technology courses that disappeared real quick when the computer world completely changed. So, it's almost folly to tell people they have to major in something that guarantees them a job. That's silly. It's not what college is about.
Last minute or so before we have to go to break, what's top of mind for you on the political or other radar right now, Mary Anna?
I'm just looking at the vaccine rollout that's taking place in Florida, and I'm looking at other states, and I'm seeing that there's been other states that are opening up to younger recipients. There's having their FEMA lines where they're able to just go jump in and get a vaccine shot. And I'm looking to see how that's going to shape up here in Florida. As Brian's mentioned, the rollout has been difficult to say the least. And I'm interested to see how do we get this to the rest of the Floridians and those that really need the vaccine. And I hope that they're able to.